Now, finally, we have come to the important lesson on Stakeholder Engagement Plan. We first started this journey with the Stakeholder Register, which used a 5-point criteria to identify the stakeholders. Then we used the power interest grid mapping technique to analyze influence areas, impact areas, etc. In the next stage, we gauged the desired and current levels of engagement of the key stakeholders into these 5 levels of engagement: unaware, resistant, neutral, supportive, leading in the previous lessons. And with all this information brought together, we are now ready to formulate an engagement plan. So what does this plan do? This plan describes the strategies and the actions that we will use to promote a productive involvement of stakeholders. This plan is super important because this will help you get your resources, that is your money, material, machinery, time, people, etc. you need for your project. And this will help in your decision making at critical junctions of the project. And finally, it will help you in executing your project successfully. All of this can only be done with the productive involvement of stakeholders, and you want them to be engaged. So, what is the strategy? How did we arrive at this strategy? To explain the strategy, let's look at the assessment matrix once again. Okay? If you are not familiar with this, look at the earlier lesson in which we did this engagement assessment, and we will continue from this point. The first point is that you don't want any stakeholder in the first 2 levels of engagement. You can see quite a few stakeholders are in these 2, and so we need to engage with them effectively. You don't want anybody in the first 2 levels of engagement that is either unaware or resistant. That is, every stakeholder, first of all, should be aware of the project. And then you don't want anybody to be resistant to the project. Any stakeholder in these 2 levels is a red flag. We have to act on everyone in those 2 levels. That is what we have done here. We have identified those stakeholders specifically, and we have to act in these 2 levels immediately. The first goal then is to get every stakeholder at a minimum of a neutral level, minimum. And then ideally move them to supportive or higher levels. How are we going to do that? That is described in this approach. This is the strategy. Then the second goal is to get the key stakeholders such as the CEO, the CFO, the HOD, to get them into leading roles. The third goal is to ensure that we keep engaging with the stakeholders periodically so that no one slips down on the levels after some time has passed. So this is a simple but effective strategy that can be used on any project to begin with. You can see that we have specific action described for individual key stakeholders that addresses their own specific pain points. And that is very important to maximize involvement rather than cookie cutter meetings and solutions. In conclusion, I want to say that this is a living document. That means we have to continuously engage with our stakeholders, typically at every milestone of the project. Remember that this is a confidential internal document and it becomes a part of the project management plan. Next up, we are going to focus on scope and requirements, and we will be starting a new section on the same ongoing EHR project. So, see you in the next section.